My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us tonight. In our first story, Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Kyerematen, has charged the Ghana Shippers Authority to formulate policies and programs that will make the maritime industry competitive in the West African sub-region. He said as African governments prepare to roll out the Continental Free Trade Area from next year, maritime trade will play a key role in making Ghana the business hub for the entire continent. He made the call in a keynote address to open the 8th African Shippers Day in Accra.
Ghana is currently well positioned as one of the best business destinations in Africa with respect to port operations. This is part of measures put in by the government to achieve trade facilitation goals under the World Trade Organization, that's WTO. Speaking at the 8th African Shippers Day in Accra, Minister of Trade and Industry Alan Kyerematen charged all shippers in the sub-region to ensure the realization of the full benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Area earmarked to begin next year.
Please remember that you are a union of African Shippers Council. And I'm sure if you start interrogating the volume of work that is undertaken by your operators, you find that most of it is outside our continent. And that is why I want to use this occasion to draw your attention to what I believe is the most significant development that is coming up on the continent now, which is the establishment of the Continental Free Trade Area. I'm sure most of you may be aware that by the first quarter of next year, Africa is going to become a free trade area through the Continental Free Trade Area Initiative that is currently being negotiated.
In an interview, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority, Benonita Bismarck, called on government to support shippers by reducing the number of tax agencies operating at the ports.
An optional trade. They can decide that I'm going to clear through Cotonou, I'm going to clear through Togo, I'm going to clear through Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire has rail linking it to Burkina Faso. Why would they want to come here? Mali used to use our corridor. Now they're using Dakar because there's rail between Dakar and Bamako. What do? So we need to remove certain things to attract that business into our corridors. And as I mentioned earlier, we've requested, we have started the port expansion project, which is a concession. We've taken huge loans to do it. We need to service those loans. You can only service when your port has a lot of traffic coming through. But if you don't do it that way, then you find that it goes to where the fees are relatively lower. And it makes sense. I mean, everybody is looking for where they will pay less.
The theme for this year's Africa Shippers Day is trade facilitation and its impact on Africa's industrialization.
That was Ebenezer Sabotage report. Meanwhile, shippers in the country are renewing calls for port operators to streamline operations at the ports as part of recommendations by the World Trade Organization's Trade Facilitation Agreement. Ghana is among many countries in Africa which adopted the WTO agreement last year to help improve ease of doing business at the major ports. Now, speaking at the 8th African Shippers Day, Chief Executive of the Ghana Shippers Authority, Bismarck Benonita, charged African member countries of the WTO to further review the number of agencies operating at the ports to enhance trade facilitation.
The commitment and resilience of shippers in Africa in the face of challenges and problems inherent in their international trade processes across the region cannot be overemphasized. These challenges, which increase the time and cost of doing business at our ports, include the multiplicity of agencies in the cargo clearance process, ineffective risk management systems, necessitating massive intrusive inspections, inconsistent customs valuation figures, creating the condition for shippers to shop for favorable customs values, increasing shipping line agents' charges, unprofessionalism of some custom house agents, and insincerity of some shippers, among others. These challenges are hydra-headed and require a concerted effort, collaboration and commitment among key enablers and well-thought-out strategies, including appropriate regulations to deal with them. Ladies and gentlemen, the coming into force of the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement this year has brought to the fore the obligations on our governments to create a congenial environment for businesses, including the transparency of rules, laws, and procedures, fairness in border agency decisions, streamlined clearance procedures, and the reduction in administrative constraints in transit trade. Our governments, therefore, need to strike a good balance between revenue generation and trade facilitation. It is in this vein that the theme for this year's Shippers' Day celebration is trade facilitation and its impact on Africa's industrialization. And this was carefully chosen.
In other news tonight, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has indicated government is working to merge ADB and NIB in the creation of a new National Development Bank. The Finance Minister in the 2018 budget disclosed that they were looking at using the bank to finance government's industrialization and agri agenda. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta tells Joy Business they have come very far with this plan.
These banks that you're looking at merging for a development bank?
I mean, those are banks that we could capitalize towards that goal, or banks that could be put together towards that goal.
And we are far advanced with that one.
No, I think that the thinking process is clear, that we need a strong, vibrant and well-capitalized development bank to be able to support the agriculture industrialization drive.
You talked about some 1 billion cedis. Was it the real cost of the exemptions that you are giving to us that was announced in this way? Because last year I thought there was that.
No, we're talking about 2017.
What about this year?
The new
this year as well?
Taxes that we had eliminated, that was 1 billion cedis. This year we've not eliminated too many taxes.
Quite marginal, of course.
Yeah, so we are okay.
So when you're saying that going forward, are you optimistic that some of these policies that you've outlined in the budget
Very much so, because I think you are seeing a response of interest in terms of entrepreneurs getting involved in industry and agriculture. And so that's the type of supply response. If we are able to provide appropriate credit price correctly, we will see the type of productivity that will come for the non-oil sector growth.
PwC was saying that let's take a second look at the whole VAT regime, because some of them are quite disincentive in realizing the revenue you're looking forward to in their presentation.
I did mention that there will be extensive conversations next year, and that will be on taxes, that will be on revenue, etc. So all of those will be looked at and examined.
You hinted about Hero Bond issue next year. How far have you come in the budget?
No, that's in there, and we certainly will be doing some sovereign bond. And it could be a combination of a Euro bond, a Samurai bond, a Panda bond, or a green financing bond.
Well, government currently holds significant stake in ADB and NIB, making it easier to go ahead with the plan. The finance minister has indicated that the state would raise some $500 million to help recapitalize the bank. Moving on to some other news tonight, accounting and tax advisory firm PricewaterhouseCoopers has been identifying some taxes that government may struggle to mobilize in realizing the projected revenue by the end of next year. According to the firm, the VAT flat rate scheme and the withholding tax may face some collection challenges. Kweku Ganza is a tax expert with PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Our tax effort is also not good enough. So the ambitious nature of the tax revenue targets has been informed by what our attitude has been towards tax compliance in the past. So provided we get our tax compliance attitude right, we can get it right. A case in point, you remember I did indicate that yesterday I was at a post-budget forum organized by the Ministry of Finance, GRA and GIZ. And it was clear from that in March 2018, there was going to be a public show where every appointee, every minister would give a public declaration that he or she has filed an income tax return. Now, the call I gave to the minister was, why don't you bring it now? Because in any case, for 2016, the deadline is well past, George. The deadline was in April 2017. So I asked them to give us a Christmas gift, whereby this December, every appointee of government who has filed his return or her return should come out and say that I have done that. So in brief, the ambitious nature is grounded on what our attitude has been in the past. Provided we change that attitude, those targets will no longer be as ambitious as we think they are.
You raised some concerns with some of the tax items and all the rest, which you think that the minister should take a second look at them. Are there any room to? What are some of these taxes that you can just reiterate for us again?
All right. One was on the flat VAT rate system. The whole idea from the MPP manifesto was that they were going to target small and micro. And George, the best way to define small and micro is to look at a certain threshold.
Now, containing the city's depreciation and resolving issues with troubled banks is set to dominate discussions as the Monetary Policy Committee begins meeting to review the health of the economy. My colleague George Yafe has been exploring some of these issues as the MPC gathers over the next 2 days in the following report.
The 7-member Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana, which is chaired by Governor Dr. Ernest Addison, would normally focus their discussions on monetary and financial developments, financial stability, real sector development, and the inflation outlook. All these are aimed at assessing the health of the Ghanaian economy. This will happen after they are presented with the technical data covering all these sectors. However, current development on the currency market could force the committee to look at the option of coming up with some additional measures to help stabilize the Ghana cedi, which is currently trading at around 4 Ghana cedis, 63 pesos, after some sustained depreciation over the past 10 days. Also, would the Bank of Ghana heed to the push from the IMF to take some action on commercial banks said to be in financial distress? Also, what is the true situation of the country's public debt after it reached 138 billion Ghana cedis in June this year? And for those who are servicing or intend to take a loan, well, I know you'll be looking forward to see how all these developments will influence the setting of a new policy rate that is currently pegged at 21%. It often influences the cost of credit in the country, and how an increase or decrease in the policy rate will give us some indications about threats to the economy as well as direction.
And we will be following that meeting closely for you. Moving on, Policy Group Third World Network is making a fresh case for government to prioritize building linkages in the value chain of the extractive industry. The past decade has seen renewed recognition of the need to end dominance of raw material commodity export in African economies, including Ghana. This development is feared to have affected prospects of the mining industry. Yaguayam is coordinator of the Third World Network Africa. He explains the essence of the African mining vision to Joy Business.
We need to pay more attention to the development of economic linkages from the mining sector with the rest of the economy, as well as the diversification of what the mining sector can contribute to economic development. This has two main dimensions. How do we increase the supply of goods and services into the mining sector as it exists? Because mining companies spend on average 60% of their expenditure on inputs. Quite a lot of this is imported. If more of this was sourced from the national or regional markets, it will expand our economies, create jobs, expand incomes, and also basically create more dynamism in the economy. The second part is there are a lot of mineral-based products that we consume, which we import. How can we increase the share of local products and the mineral-based products that we consume. We have things like, say, take the mining boom in the country, in Ghana at the moment. A lot of the inputs are from outside. We could easily expand this housing boom if, for example, we had a strong brick and tile industry, which is using available clay. We import a lot of ceramic products, tiles, bathroom fittings and so on, which could be made from local clays and other sources. So, and there are many, many other examples of consumables which could be made locally.
Turning to a Greek now, the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Auth, has indicated plans to ramp up vegetable exports as the ban on the export of some 5 vegetables to the EU market has been lifted. The ban was fully enforced in 2015 as the EU intercepted high volumes of vegetables that did not meet required phytosanitary standards. Now, speaking at a press conference in Accra, Dr. Auth said lifting of the ban is an opportunity for increased production and job creation.
According to the press statement by the Ministry for Food and Agriculture, the ban that was put in place on export of 5 vegetables in October 2015 will not be extended after it expires on the 31st of December 2017. Speaking to Joy Business, Dr. Auth said, with the markets now open, it is a good opportunity to increase export earnings.
We want to take advantage of the lifting of the ban to raise from the 80 million when we stopped in the next 2-3 years to maybe $100 million. And we can do it. We have the weather, we have the skill of the human resource of people that are trained, you know, young men and women who have the energy. We have the know-how, and now with the acquisition of the Israeli involvement in this sector, and we made provision in a GOG budget for 2018. So we want to raise this, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 3 years we reach $100 million. Just on these vegetables alone. Never mind the others like fruits and the others that we are also very actively involved. I don't want to talk about everything, but at least those areas which are very attractive to the youth. You see, so it's something which I feel is very attractive for the youth. And the youth, the creation of job for the youth is a priority of this government. So we'll be killing 2 birds with a stone, absorbing the youth into this and also increasing your export earnings to bring prosperity to the people of Ghana. So that is what we are doing.
Requirements for having the ban lifted including stepping up some hygienic conditions along the value chain from the farm gates to the exit points to ensure only wholesome food products are exported. Dr. Auth added, same strict conditions will be applied locally moving forward.
Do you think I'm sitting here in Accra that somebody sitting in Rome will have a better Ghanaian product than myself? No, I mean it's for all of us, for the benefit of both the domestic man. You know, we are talking about $80 million a year for 3. Do you know how much we spend on importing these vegetables here from South Africa, from Argentina, and so on? So there's a huge domestic market here for the hotel, the tourist trade, and all that. That we haven't even started. Even if we don't export, the market here is big. And you look at the prices on the shelves. You go to any of these supermarkets. It's amazing. So there's a huge profit potential sitting there, even for the domestic market and even more so for the export market.
Sheila Tamaklo for Joy Business.
All right, time to bring you the Joy Business van. And well, at the Commonwealth Games in 2018, his bamboo bicycles will feature prominently as the captain of the Ghana cyclist team pushes for gold. Now, having a sustainable structure in mind, Kwamna Danso had to change his non-government organization into a real business. With 4 workers at the beginning, he now has 40 employees. Boomers International Limited has so far exported 2,500 bikes to Europe and the Americas. Odilia Ntiama takes us on a ride on this edition of the Joy Business Van.
At Apa in the Ashanti region of Ghana, this is where it all began. Having left the building in the past 3 years, there's still a real evidence that the company was once here. From a non-governmental organization, Boomers International moved from 4 workers to its current factory. The company makes bamboo bicycles, and its owner is Kwabena Danso. Bamboo bicycles! We so far have seen some of these bamboo bicycles in Canada, in Germany, and also in Holland. Well, they're trying to scale up to really take this bicycle international. It will be going for the Commonwealth Games as a Ghanaian decides to ride this bicycle. But I want to give you details about this company, so don't miss it. Let's go.
I realized there were a lot of problems in my community. High risk school dropout rate, unemployment, high teenage pregnancy, lack of opportunity for the youth. And you realize that a lot of the youth were actually migrating to Accra, Kumasi, trying to find jobs. And I grew up there, I saw these challenges, and at some point I decided, look, it's not time to complain again, it's about time to take action.
The process of making the bamboo starts from here. Cat bamboos are put together with a local delicacy, kokonte, and glue to make it stick together. Then twines and more glue is added to give this unique, sexy final look that the bicycle has. How did you know that, for instance, like the kokonte flour would be able to hold the whole bamboo together?
Yeah, you know, cassava itself is starchy.
Yeah.
So we realized that using that together with the resin epoxy will give us a perfect the binding we need, and that's why we decided to use it.
Sandpaper is applied to make the frames look smooth to meet international standards, with attention to detail. The national best cyclists Moomin inspects the frames ready for the international market. Marking the defects, Boomers International says meeting the international standard, it's its priority. Why is Moomin special? What makes him special?
So we've put Moomin at the quality control checks because he is a cyclist himself.
Okay.
He understands bikes, he understands cycling, he knows what a cyclist should look for in a bike.
Yeah.
He is currently the national cycling champion, and he will be going for the Commonwealth Games next year. So we are lucky to have him being at the factory with us, working on this project as well, and to be in charge of quality control because he understands what customers want, because he's a biker himself.
Boomers International has gone through several phases as a business, and Kwabena Danso says he has had to fire twice his whole workforce to get things right.
So at some point, I just said, look, when I realized that I needed to scale this thing up, I needed to do a rebrand, I needed to get everything right, I just said, look, I think this crop of people, if I'm bringing new people on board, is going to be another disaster because they're going to influence them. So at this point, I need to get all these people off. Bringing a new crop of young people, train them, give them a different mindset, and then let them work.
Boomers has grown from a current workforce of 4 workers to 40. So far, the company is the biggest bamboo bicycle making company in Africa, sending 1,200 bikes to the rest of the world in a year. Support for his business has mostly come from international investors with virtually no local support. Kwabena says the challenge for young businesses are daunting.
Minimum requirements, every requirement, so you have to be paying fee here and there. And in Ghana, one thing we don't do well is we don't even categorize between what is a small company, what is. We put everything in almost everybody in the same bracket. And this doesn't help with the small businesses because it takes a lot of the business capital away. And normally what the person has to work with is very small. And these businesses don't even get support from the banks. So after taking off a lot of your capital, then you are left with very small to work with.
The company has been assessed for the One District, One Factory funding and is yet to be approved. But for now, crowdfunding is what Kwabena Danso is relying on to scale up.
That was Odilia and Tiamwa having fun on that bamboo bike. Of course, the repeat of the Joy Business Van is on tomorrow on the marketplace. You may want to catch it again. Moving on to our interview of the day. And small and medium enterprises, SMEs, are being advised to consider green financing as an effective means of funding their operations rather than an impediment to growth. Green finance involves issuance of an investment instrument in exchange for environmentally friendly standards in the business operation towards tackling climate change and its effects. There are concerns the initial high cost may adversely affect the finances of a business, but Director for Division of Enterprises and Institutions at the International Trade Center, Anders Ero, says it pays off in the long run.
I think it's a well-known fact that there are initial costs often combined with going green or climate smart production, but in the longer term it pays off. Whether you use solar panels, use more efficient processes in what you do, whether you recycle your waste materials or sell them to others that can use those. I think we heard a good quote this morning as well, and that is that waste is simply money in transition. So one person's waste or one factory's waste or one farm's waste might be useful and valuable inputs in other enterprises' production and further production of interesting goods and services.
So do you think Ghana has made significant progress by going green?
Yes, I do think Ghana has made significant progress. If you look into the setup when it comes to the regulatory environment, when it comes to institutions in place, when it comes to the public debate, when it comes to the initiatives we have heard about solar panels and other initiatives, I do think there is a substantial progress and awareness of climate here in Ghana.
And thanks for watching our program tonight. As always, we are back same time tomorrow.